Colonel, did you order the code red?
You gotta calm yourself, son.
I'm calm as a Sunday morning. I just want the truth.
Truth? You can't handle the truth, brother. Because when it gets out there in the ring of life, it stands toe-to-toe with fear and snaps into it. I ordered it. Yeah.
Colonel,
Good morning, pineapples. Rise and freedom. American patriots, welcome to the arena. It's January 26, 2026, and if you aren't wide awake yet, the ghost of the non-aggression principle is about to pour an ice-cold bucket of reality over your head. I am your host, Austin Petersen, broadcasting from the frigid command center of common sense in Jefferson City, Missouri, where it's negative 5 degrees outside. Don't panic. We've got 2 hours of unfiltered, unapologetic, patriotic, libertarian, nationalist, uncomfortably accurate truth headed your way. Do we have some dark humor for you today? Good morning, Joni Rankin, Drew Van Runkle, Booty Sweat, M&M's, Quest, Fanning. Hello, everyone. You're going to have some laughs today. It's going to be the kind of laugh you get when you watch a libertarian try to explain to a Soviet border guard that he doesn't consent to the boxcar, and then proceeds to explain to the other inmates in the boxcar why this wouldn't be happening if everyone had just obeyed the non-aggression principle. Newsflash, it's too late. This weekend, someone literally said to me on X that we'd have to wait until someone launches nukes at us before we could strike back. I can't with this idiocy. It must be refuted explicitly and separated from the American cause for liberty. Just like cancer must be extricated. Grab your Geiger counters and your recreational nukes, because this segment will be radioactive. I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a fire in your heart for liberty that you can actually defend. And coming up this hour, bingo, bango, bongo, I don't want to leave the Congo. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, wait, I don't have to. The Africans are here now, and they're defrauding us while leftists are committing suicide by cop to defend them. We're diving deep into the Minneapolis siege. The Twin Cities have gone from Minnesota nice to Minnesota Marxist in record time. We've got the leaked signal chats revealing that Democrat officials aren't just watching the chaos. They are the dispatchers. We're talking about an 8,000% surge in threats against federal agents, while Tim Walz calls accountability propaganda. And for the gun nerds out there, and I say that with love because I am one, obviously, we're breaking down the SIG P320 factor. Did the gun discharge on its own, or is the left just using a hardware glitch to sell a homicide narrative? In the second hour, we've got a lineup that will make the ladies at the New York Times and Reason Magazine break out in hives. John Miltimore joins us from the belly of the beast in Minnesota to dissect the total collapse of order in Minneapolis. And then my old friend, Squiggly Line Guy himself, steps into the ring to debate the viral article from this weekend. Did you read the article that said we should kill all libertarians? Don't get mad at me, but they're right. Sort of. Half right. And we'll talk about that today. Thank you to Quest Fanning for your $5 donation. That gets us rocking and rolling towards the bonus content, which we do have for you here today. If we unlock Phase 1, a mini documentary. Phase 2, our great grift off Liberty Loot Live. So keep those Rumble Rant donations flowing if you want to see a totally amazing, fun show. Let's let today be the day that we ride out together. Ride out with me, Theoden King. Can you tell Stephanie and I watched Loader recently? So if your philosophy is a suicide pact, don't complain when the eugenicist, ethno-nationalist executioner shows up for you libertarians. Plus, I'm going to tell you why you need to join me in Boston. You need to join us, me, Stephanie, and Justin in Boston this May to stand where patriots actually had the spine to fight back, not just tweet about it. So grab your founding flavors coffee, stick a finger in the eye of tyranny, and buckle up. The train is leaving the station. You do not want to be on the wrong side of the tracks. Wake up, America. The show starts now. The Minneapolis siege. Wake up, America. It's January 25th, 2026. 26, excuse me. The streets of Minneapolis have officially transitioned from a constitutional republic to a paramilitary war zone. And no, I'm not talking about the federal agents. I'm talking about the leftist commissars running encrypted signal chats to stalk, dox, and assault the men and women of law enforcement.
We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank.
What?
Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota.
What?
And there's one person who can end this now.
Yeah, you. Or maybe there's three people. You, Jacob Frey, and Ilhan Omar. This, the guy who has enabled the fraud that has gone on, that is causing all of this. Yesterday at 9:05 a.m., federal agents in Operation Metro Surge were executing a lawful operation to remove a high-threat undocumented immigrant. This wasn't some random door-kicking raid. This was a mission to extract the rot of fraud and crime from a city that has become the shield for global scammers and international terrorist organizations. But they weren't just fighting one criminal. They were fighting an infiltrated, coordinated web. So independent journalist Cam Higbee has revealed the truth. So he infiltrated signal groups across Minneapolis, where mobile patrols spend their entire shifts searching for federal vehicles. They have plate checkers comparing license tags to a database. They have a dispatch running a maxed out call all day, telling protesters exactly where ICE has been spotted so they can be impeded. And who is running these chats? Allegedly, at least two Minnesota Democrat officials and Amanda Koehler, a campaign advisor to Tim Walz, have been identified as admins. Now, while Walz calls federal accountability propaganda and goes on about Anne Frank, his own people are running the dispatch for the mob. So now let's talk about Alex Pretti. He was a 37-year-old ICU nurse. He was also a permit to carry gun owner in his state. The left is already turning him into a martyr, but the videos reveal a chaotic, split-second nightmare created by this very signal network. Witnesses report that when ICE agents tried to enter a local restaurant, the door was locked in their faces. The network was activated. The crowd swarmed. And according to the DHS, Pretti approached officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The media says he had a cell phone. Amy Klobuchar, when she went on the talk show circuit this weekend, this is how she described him. Take a listen.
Trust. And we have had law enforcement is based on trust. And we have had a total breakdown of trust. We had 50,000 peaceful protesters. I was with them that marched without a problem. And then you have a guy with a cell phone who's killed by 6 federal agents the next morning.
Are you forgetting something, Senator? What else did he have? A cell phone and okay. But the agents, of course, recovered the loaded 9mm and 2 spare magazines from his person. Alex Pretti was encouraged by Mayor Jacob Frey and Governor Tim Walz to view these agents as illegitimate occupiers. When you convince a citizen that the police are the enemy, you're setting them on a collision course with death. The blood isn't just on the hands of the agent who fired, it's on the hands of the politicians who turned Minneapolis into a, quote, de-arrest zone. If you think this is just about one incident, you aren't looking at the data. The DHS has released staggering new statistics, and they are horrifying. ICE law enforcement now face a 1,300% increase in assaults. They're facing a 3,200% increase in vehicular attacks. I'm watching the videos all weekend. They're running these officers off the road. What are they supposed to do? An 8,000% increase in death threats. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin blamed this directly on the radical rhetoric of sanctuary politicians And she's right. So we're seeing videos. I have videos of citizens chasing people through the streets, accusing them of working with ICE. Here's a perfect example of this.
I got these guys fucking with my fucking shit.
Sorry with the language. You need to see this. There will be bad language, but you need to see what's happening in your country right now.
All right, what's good? Oh, yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Dude, you would have every right to shoot that motherfucker. Sorry for the language. Somebody, don't open the door for these people. First of all, you idiot, but you better be packed and armed and ready to go. This is America. Those violent leftists, these are terrorists. These are people, that person deserved to die for that. He should have absolutely been shot for that. You reach into my house, especially if I got a baby in a car, it is the end of your life. You have to defend yourself with force against these violent communists. You have to be able to defend yourself with force. The NAP will not save you. They don't care about the nap. It's too late. You're already dead. They're blowing whistles. They're stalking agents to their hotels. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says the dehumanization of law enforcement must end. But in Minnesota, it's a government-sponsored sport. For the people who are trying to pretend that this is like the feds against the people, no, it's competing mobs here. We're talking about competing gangster mobs. It's government-on-government violence. Okay, it's not as if it's just, Jacob Pretti, he's a 37-year-old ICU nurse. The people organizing this are government officials. They work for the Walz administration. They're in on it. It's a conspiracy. Wake up, everybody. Wake up, libertarians. Wake up. This is crazy. This is insane. This is not allowed in the United States. This is not America. Minnesota must undergo a thorough denazification and reconstruction period before it can ever be readmitted back into the Union. As far as I'm concerned, Minnesota should be occupied territory. This is what happens when you let the far left run your state. This is America. They don't just protect the Somali fraudsters who've stolen billions in child scare schemes. They actively coordinate the violence against the people trying to stop the theft. We're going to talk about guns. I've got a whole gun section for you. Please continue to unlock the bonus content. You will not get the spiciest of spicy opinions like this on any other show this morning. Make sure that you step in and be good patriots and unlock that bonus content for me, guys. So let's talk to my Second Amendment brothers getting sucked into the anarchist narrative. Wake up. On January 7th, an agent shot and killed Renee Good, another so-called poet who is actually part of these stalking neighborhood patrols. She was shot after weaponizing her vehicle against an agent. Dana Lash posted on X, yes, you can absolutely carry at a protest. No, you absolutely cannot interrupt a federal op while armed and tussle with law enforcement officer. That's how tragic things happen. Thank you, Dana. Exactly. When you interfere with a federal arrest, you aren't defending liberty, you're protecting lawlessness. You are providing cover for a criminal underclass that wants to dismantle this civilization. The left wants you to side with Pretti so that they can prove that lawful gun owners are dangerous anarchists. They're using the bodies of nurses and poets to build the case for your own disarmament. Don't be their useful idiot, okay? There's a bit of a civil war brewing inside the Second Amendment community over the body of Alex Pretti. The establishment gun groups are scrambling. Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus was quick to pitch a tent, calling the shooting deeply concerning and reminding everyone that Pretti had a lawful permit to carry. The National Rifle Association is also weighing in, demanding a full investigation and attacking Trump-appointed officials for, quote, demonizing law-abiding citizens. Gun Owners of America, the GOA, they issued a blistering statement saying the Second Amendment protects your right to bear arms while protesting, and that federal agents aren't legally justified in shooting for concealed carriers, shooting concealed carriers just for approaching them. But I want you to look at the tone here. All right, they're trying to frame this as a pure civil rights issue. They're acting as if this was a Sunday stroll in the park that ended in an ambush. They are ignoring the fact that the agents were being swarmed by a coordinated mob. They're ignoring the signal chats and the DRS tactics. They're providing cover for a level of recklessness that no responsible gun owner should ever excuse. Now, let's get into the hardware, because the firearms community is buzzing about a specific detail that might explain the chaos at 26th and Nicollet. Alex Pretti wasn't just carrying any handgun. He was carrying a Sig Sauer P320 AXG Combat, which is a pretty high-end. I mean, I say high-end. It just depends on how poor you are. But I think $1,100 for a pistol is a pretty nice pistol. I know people are going to be like, boo. High-end for me is a $5,000. Imported H&K. Calm down, rich people. Some of us have poverty ponies. For those who don't know, the P320 is infamous in the gun world for a history of unintentional discharges. So we're talking about over 100 allegations of this weapon firing uncommanded, even with a permit. Okay, there we go. Look at that with there it is, gun in the hand here. Okay, so we're talking about over 100 allegations of this weapon firing uncommanded, even with a permit. Pretti brought a tool with a documented track record of going bang without a trigger pull. Gun experts, including Rob Dorr of the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, are analyzing the video and suggesting something critical. Dorr believes it's highly likely that the first shot was actually a negligent discharge from the agent who grabbed the gun from Pretti's holster. The video shows an agent yelling "gun," snatching the weapon, and as he walks away, a shot goes off, prompting a second agent to open fire multiple times, thinking that the firefight had begun. If that gun had discharged mechanically while the agent was clearing the scene, the entire tragedy was triggered by a defective weapon in a high-stress mob environment. Now, President Trump, he weighed in on Truth Social, and he's asking the questions that the media is too afraid to touch. He posted a picture of Pretti's gun, fully loaded with 2 extra 21-round magazines, and asked, what is that all about? But more importantly, he asked, where were the local police? Trump is speculating the governor, Tim Walz, and Mayor Jacob Frey purposely called off local law enforcement, leaving ICE agents to protect themselves without backup. So this is the malice of the Minnesota left. They remove the professional police buffer. They incite protesters to stalk and impede federal ops. And then they act shocked when a nurse with a handgun gets shot in the confusion. Whether it was a drop fire defect or a negligent discharge during a disarm attempt, the fact remains. Pretti was carrying a loaded custom combat pistol to a political fight against federal agents. This isn't a recipe for liberty. That is a recipe for the exact disaster that the left wants to use to disarm every single one of you. And this is where I want to expand on what Dana Lash said when she decided to bring some adult supervision to the conversation. She saw the Trump-appointed prosecutors in California trying to say that if you approach LEO with a gun, you're probably going to get shot. So she called that sentiment dangerous, but she also dropped the hammer on the anarchist wing of the movement. She told the truth that no one else wants to hear. Yes, you absolutely can carry at a protest. No, you absolutely cannot interrupt a federal op while armed and tussle with law enforcement officers. That's how tragic things happen. This isn't rocket science. Dana is right. The GOA and the NRA are so afraid of, quote, giving an inch on the Second Amendment that they're willingly blind to the practical reality of interfering with a federal operation. You have the right to bear arms. You do not have a right to be a catalyst for chaos during a high-stakes federal enforcement action. I saw a lot of people posting, it could have been you over the weekend. They want you to feel that personal fear. They want you to think the feds are just looking for anyone with a permit to blow away. But I agree with one X user who posted this. He posted the most honest thing I've seen all week. He said, stop saying it could have been you. No, it couldn't have. I'm not stupid enough to carry a firearm to join a fight against law enforcement officers, take an ass whooping because I'm actively resisting arrest, and then get shot. No, it couldn't have been me. Shut up. Shut up. Libertarians want to pretend that Pretti was a martyr for the NAP. I'm telling you, he was a victim of stupidity. If you go to a war zone, inject yourself into a federal arrest, tussle with armed agents while you have a 9mm in your waistband, you've left the realm of law-abiding citizen and entered the realm of suicidal agitator. This isn't about statism. It's about judgment. It's about understanding that when you cross the line, when you join the signal mob and start impeding agents, your permit to carry isn't a magical shield. It's a liability. And if the gun rights organizations can't see the difference between a peaceful protester and a coordinated obstructionist, then they are just as lost as the people running the Twin Cities. We all know the gun lobbies are not always our friends. And when they are always acting in defense of their own interests, not necessarily the interests of all gun owners. No, I don't want leftist, communist retards being the representatives of the Second Amendment. That's not what we want. Remember the standoff at the Bundy Ranch against the Bureau of Land Management during the Obama years? Conservatives pointed guns at federal agents at a standoff. Nobody died. Why don't conservatives ever die in these kinds of confrontations? I wonder, how did that happen? Why is it that I remember going to open protests in Missouri to open the state, open the economy when they shut us down in 2020. Conservatives were all carrying at these protests. Everybody was really peaceful. Everybody was nice. Why is it that it's the leftists that are the ones always getting shot? Wake up, America. The Kill the Libertarians wake-up call. It's time to talk about the Libertarians. We have to address the elephant in the room. So there is an article going viral on X titled, "We Should Kill Libertarians." It's a hyper-provocative satire piece. It claims that eliminating libertarians is a public service because it refutes their childlike worldview. No, Jennifer, I'm not disagreeing with the gunners because they're principled. Jennifer, stop believing that everybody that tells you that they're principled is actually principled. They're not. Okay? You have to distrust lobbies. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the National Association for Gun Rights. We're skeptical of the NRA. We can't be skeptical of the GOA. No, you're not a brilliant person when you arm yourself and launch yourself into a crowd of federal agents. You're not responsible when you chase them down. On behalf of other government agents, you're just a member of one violent organized mob or another. And the gun organizations, the gun institutions, they're just the same. Camelia will tell you this. There are perverse incentives for lobbyists. Right? They don't have a commitment to the truth. They have a commitment to their almighty donor dollar. That's why they sell us out all the time. We should kill all libertarians. Most libertarians are spending their days in a state of moral panic over this. They are crying to the platform admins. I'm going to tell you to listen to what the author of this piece is actually saying, okay? The piece argues that the non-aggression principle, your precious NAP, is little more than a charming fairy tale. it says that in the real world, the law of the jungle still reigns supreme. If libertarianism were true, the author argues, some mystical market force would stop his aggression. But in reality, the only hand in play is the one gripping the knife. If someone has a knife and you have a principle, the knife wins. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. I'd love to have you be a regular guest at the Wake Up America Show. There are some gun owners and gun lobbyists and activists that will say that if you express gun safety, there are people who, when you express basic gun safety tips to them or explain to them, like, get your booger hook off the bang switch, they see that, why are you trying to impede on my rights, right? There are people who think that it's their right to swing the gun pointed at everyone. As long as they don't shoot you, then it's libertarian. No, you start swinging that thing wildly around there. Whoa, 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 whoa. You can get away with that once, but you do it again, we're going to disarm you, okay? Yeah, you're taking away my right. Yeah, we're taking away your right to build a nuclear reactor in your basement, you fucking psychopath. Yeah, no, you're not going to be allowed to create VX gas in your basement, in an unregulated basement without, you're not going to be allowed to, your Second Amendment right doesn't protect your right to create biological weapons and Ebola 3 in your basement without any proper safety protocols. I'm sorry. No, we're violating your NAP. Remember the radioactive Boy Scout? And they went into his garage and they had to go get a hazmat team because he had gone through so many smoke detectors and created his own little radon bomb. No, I'm sorry, we're violating his NAP. I'm violating his NAP. What are you going to do about it? Call the cops, motherfucker. Here's the cold, hard truth. The author of this article, Kill All Libertarians, is right. If your philosophy doesn't include the willingness to defend your home from radioactive Boy Scouts, your border, your civilization with raw, unapologetic force, you don't have a philosophy. You have a suicide note. Every right a man claims only exists to the extent that he can defend it, violently if necessary. Israel understands this. The founders understood this. Why don't you? The problem with the modern libertarian movement is that it has been infected by luxury beliefs. These are the ideas that confer status upon the elites while inflicting devastation upon the working class. Supporting open borders while the streets of Minneapolis are overrun by a signal-coordinated mob is a luxury belief. Preaching suicidal empathy for Somali fraudsters who despise our system of laws is a luxury belief. You think the invisible hand is going to fix the fact that billions are being stolen from your neighbors to fund the deconstruction of Western civilization? No, civilization is a team sport. And if you aren't on the team that defends the border, you're on the team that is destroying the nation. Rebellion without virtue is decay. Liberty without discipline is suicide. Responsibility. They go hand in hand. One cannot exist without the other. Quest Fanning says, classic, it's not the NAP violation until the bullet hits. Driving while intoxicated isn't a NAP violation until the car hits you. Seriously. I'm tired of all these lobbies. I'm tired of all the lobbies. Tired of all of them. They don't speak for me. So I see the keyboard warriors out there digging up my 2016 and 2018 campaign statements. They're screaming, Austin, you were pro-immigration then. You flip-flopped. Let me be crystal clear for the people in the back. I have not moved. You have drifted. In 2016, when I ran for president, and in 2018, when I ran for the U.S. Senate, I advocated for Ellis Island protocols. Go back to the records. Go back to the first records. What was the first question that they asked at the island? Are you an anarchist? If you said yes, you didn't get in. Why? Because no one should be allowed to move to the United States who doesn't accept our Republican form of government and our system of laws. You don't believe in the Constitution? Get out. You don't like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington? Get out. I have always called for security checks. I have always called for vetting. If you come here illegally, fomenting anarchy and chaos, and defrauding our citizenry, I am not your ally. I'm your opposition with a bullet. Even the libertarian movement's own darlings openly say they agree with me in white papers, even if they don't agree with me on X Online. Look at Shika Dalmia's 2012 paper for the Reason Foundation, an argument for opening America's borders. Even Dalmia, the woman whose work you use to justify your anarcho-delusions, writes plainly, for most advocates, it does not mean that anyone should be allowed into the country, no questions asked. She explicitly states that the government has a legitimate role in keeping out foreigners who pose a genuine public health or safety threat. She supports rejecting those who fail a background check. So if the star analyst at Reason Foundation says we need background checks and security, why are you attacking me for demanding the same? It's because you aren't serious people. You are anarchists wearing libertarian masks, and you're providing cover for the very leftists who want to see this civilization burn. We need a new libertarianism. A libertarianism with teeth. That's why I issued the Libertarian Nationalist Manifesto. We reject the delusion of a stateless utopia. Civilization demands law. We reject the pacifism that hides behind the NAP. Nations that refuse to act until attacked soon vanish from the map. We stand for order. We stand for the Constitution as the covenant of our civilization. We stand for borders as the guardians of sovereignty. We must decouple our critical industries from China and secure our borders with technology, manpower, and law. This isn't about abandoning liberty. It's about protecting it. It's about ensuring liberty has a home to live in. If you don't defend the nation, you don't deserve the freedom. Liberty must come with responsibility. The arena awaits. You can either be a think tank libertarian debating purity while the mob doxes your neighbors and chases you down and drags you out of the car and beats you for wearing a ski mask, or you can be a libertarian statesman who understands that strength is the prerequisite for freedom. Tired of all the lobbyists. Craig Muttley says, uh-oh, manifesto. Exactly. Who do I have to kill to get to read this thing? Oh, yeah. Okay, Sarah. Minneapolis is a warning. The Kill the Libertarians article is a warning. Don't be the victim of your own suicidal empathy. Wake up, America. Don't get on the boxcar. Don't get on the boxcar. Okay, guys. Citizens, patriots, people who actually know which side of the musket the ball comes out of. Are you tired of hearing about the death of liberty from your couch? Well, then it's time to stand where the fire started. May 1st and 2nd, 2026, Boston's 250th anniversary of the United States. I'm officially inviting you to join me and our expert guide, Justin, for a weekend that's going to make the history books look like a boring PTA meeting. We're going to walk the cobblestones of the old State House, stand on the hallowed ground of the Boston Massacre, and pay our respects to the original troublemakers, Sam Adams and Paul Revere at the Granary Burying Ground. And I guarantee you that those boys were smart enough to know to keep their powder dry until you cross the Delaware and shoot at the Hessians, and then, with overwhelming force, that you initiate, that you will, and you'll win that battle. Andy Opperman donated 50 freaking bucks. Oh my God. Everybody panic. How does the Libertarian Nationalist react to the tanks in Tiananmen Square? Not that this is that, but when it gets there. Now, that's a great question. What you do is you lay tank traps in the road. Let's talk. Now, here's the thing. Once you agree with me, once you've agreed with my premise that we do have to fight against tyranny, once that we actually are saying, okay, when is it time to carry my SIG P? Well, first of all, you don't go into battle, Andy, like this guy did with a gun that is capable of negligent discharges. He was a nurse, had no idea what he was doing. His mother told him not to go. he shows up with a gun that has negligent discharges. So when it's time to Tiananmen Square, I'm not going to give you a gun that has negligent discharges and then send you into a scrum of communist Antifa agents and get you killed. What I'm going to suggest you do is that the day before the communist tanks are going to roll down the street, we're going to lay tank traps, like depending on our force, right? So if the tanks are dominant to us in force, then we're going to do hit and run tactics. If we're stronger, we're just going to roll tanks with our tanks. But I'm not going to get you killed. No, it's not. The job of the commander is not to have you die for your country. It's to make the other guy die for his country. Thank you, George Patton. Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. And Frickety says, make a militia, organize. The sad thing is that they do have a militia. The sad thing is that it is the left who have formed the militia. They do have a right to bear arms in this country. They've formed militias. It just so happens that their militias are run by government officials in Minnesota who are tyrants, not patriots. So yeah, so when do we roll on the Tories is a good question. You know, plenty of our neighbors in this country are Tories. Many of the Tories after the war, what do? The collaborationists, the traitors, they fled to Canada, and now we got. In 1812, they took a little trip, fired our guns, and the British kept it coming. In 1814, we took a little trip. Sorry, I don't want to get off on that. Thank you guys for helping to unlock that bonus content this morning. Looks like we're well on our way. Learn to tell the difference between treason, and patriotism, because those two things are often conflated. And remember, even George Washington put down the Whiskey Rebellion. I know. Thanks for unlocking the bonus content. $124. You guys are so generous. Thank you so much. I have something to offend everyone today, so if you're not offended yet, then just wait. We're going to go to the Bell in Hand Tavern in Boston. It's been open since 1795, which means that the beer is historic and the vibes are revolutionary. Me and Quest are going to be sitting side by side. Yo ho, yo ho. He'll be flying the black flag of anarchy. Raise the colors. Yo ho, yo ho. Raise the colors and fly. Petersen's Patriots will join us May 1st and 2nd in Boston. Will you be there? Remember, if you're a member of our Petersen's Patriots crew, you do get a 20% discount on your Petersen's Patriot tickets for the tour. So make sure to keep that ticket, that golden ticket, and use it. The 25% off discount has expired. We may run another before we go. We're not quite sure yet, but as of right now, we need to get our tickets booked. We need to go and for the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum and the Boston Harbor Sunset Cruise. We need to buy those tickets like ASAP. So go to forlibertyshop.com if you have not. Book your tickets today. Petersen's Patriots get 20% off. Andy's going to be there too. We're going to be drinking beer in Boston for the 250th anniversary of the United States. God bless America. Come and join us. We're going to go take a tour and drink Founding Flavors coffee while we're there, I'm sure. Okay, so we're going to cap it all off with a sunset cruise in the harbor. Guys, kids under 18 attend the tour for free, okay? So bring the next generation to the Vanguard. Let's do it. Andy, he upgraded his experience with the premium merch package. We've got totes, hats, and a ceramic stein that will make your morning coffee feel like a declaration of independence. The best part is you pre-order it and we'll have it waiting for you in Boston if you get the first tier. For the second tier, because it's like ceramics and like really nice stuff, we're going to deliver that stuff to your front door. So get it now so it can get there before the trip. So we can all wear our tour t-shirts while we're there. Last year we had an absolute blast. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Click on the Petersen's Patriots Boston 250th anniversary tour. We need to get 10 people by February 11th to make this a reality. So don't wait. Pack your walking shoes and your passion for freedom. I will see you in the cradle of liberty. Federal agents are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults. The streets of Minneapolis are being coordinated by encrypted signal chats run by political operatives. And in the middle of it all, a lawful gun owner is dead after a chaotic struggle over a handgun that has a defective track record. The media is desperate to frame this as a simple story of state aggression, but the reality is a tangle of incitement, civilizational decay, and the total collapse of law and order. We're going to speak this morning to John Miltimore from the American Institute for Economic Research. He will be here at 15 minutes. John Miltimore will be joining us live, and at 8 a.m. Central Time, kill all libertarians, said the article that went viral over the weekend. Everyone was fighting over whether or not we should take all the libertarians and load them into the boxcars and send them to the death camps. Afuera! What do you say?
No, God! No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
I say let them crash. Somebody caught my airplane reference last week.
Why are you getting so angry?
Because our country being run by fucking criminals and nobody's doing anything. And people like you are defending actions of fucking terrorists.
And people like you are defending these pedophiles being in Minnesota by wanting to abolish ICE and get them out of
I'm
here.
not defending those fucking pedophiles. If you're trying to argue that we need to get rid of these people, that these are fucking pedophiles, then get the fucking pedophiles in the White House out now.
Those are pedophiles.
Okay.
And so when you want ICE out of Minnesota or Minneapolis, this is who you're protecting.
No, I am not trying to protect those people. I'm protecting the actual people who had not.
Did he have to sound like that too?
Had any previous criminal charges against them being deported. Sure, maybe those people have been convicted. Maybe they should get out. But
How do they get out though?
I mean, get out of.
But how does that happen without ICE?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Oh my God. Sorry. Don't hit the desktop, Austin. God, we are going to have a freaking great show. You think the first hour was full of fire and fury? Welcome to Dragonborn. I'm Austin Petersen. This is the Wake Up America show, and God bless America. Yo ho, yo ho, raise the colors and fly. Yo ho, yo ho. Yo ho, yo ho. Nice. At times, any normal man must be tempted to spit on his hands, hoist the black flag, and begin slitting throats. Sure. Yo ho, yo ho, hoist the colors and fly high. A Minneapolis mother is going viral after taking her 18-month-old baby out into sub-zero temperatures to protest against ICE. Because, in her own words, her baby doesn't hold any more value than that of an illegal. They have no preservation instincts. Remember, if you get your child killed while doing something stupid as yourself, it still counts as a Darwin Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't bring your babies to violent incursions against federal law enforcement officers. Arvold24 says, I love questions like these. How do we get rid of illegal aliens without law enforcement? Liberals and libertarians have no answer. This libertarian does. I say, let him crash. How about a bounty hunt? This is America. What's more American than bounty hunting? Illegal alien bounty hunting. Privatize it. Why would boomers rather die protesting the deportation of Somalian migrants than help their own offspring afford a house?
Stop! Look out! Down! Kill. Okay. I'm fine. I didn't even breathe anything. I'm just angry. I'm 7 years old. Angry.
7 years old. Nobody loves me. I spent my kids' inheritance. My buddy Robbie sent me a text message. I didn't want to dox him, so there we go. Abolish ICE. Yes. Good one, Robbie. Thanks for the tip. Robbie's an old man who's angry, but he's angry at the right people. The administration's messaging on the Second Amendment question on this one has been all over the place, to be generous. But Dana Lash kept it real. She said, yes, you can absolutely carry out a protest. Anyone who tells you otherwise is an anti-2A status. Yes. No, you cannot, absolutely cannot interrupt a federal op while armed and tussle with law enforcement. That's how tragic things happen. This isn't rocket scientists. Yeah, seems pretty clear. These are the people that you're defending. Does anybody remember this? Protester mocks Charlie Kirk at No King's protest. Remember this? Flora, drive, baby. Oh, I got you killed. Far left activist William Kelly stormed a church. Come and get me. Well, we got him, didn't we? And we're going to continue to get him. Every leftist and liberal or incompetent in the Trump administration who's not on point with their 2A messaging, and they should be on point with the 2A messaging. I will not lose sleep listening to leftist reporters inciting getting involved in federal engagements, getting the rubber bullet.
They're shooting at me. They are shooting at me. Bunch of dogs. Oh, you stupid dogs. What are you doing? Hey, arrest these guys. They're coming for us. They're coming for us. What are you doing? You killed someone, not us. You killed someone. Oh, who gives a crap? I got a gas mask. I don't care. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing? You don't remember we talked about you don't hate the journalists enough? That's Will Stansel. Yeah, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yesterday, while we were driving, writes Haley West, we were followed by multiple vehicles for over an hour. We were told we came up in the local ICE Watch Group's ICE database. You can hear us confirm to them multiple times. We are not ICE. At one point, they asked for our IDs. Private citizens asking other citizens for their IDs. Talk about papers, please. Insane network they're running over here. Never seen anything like it. Look at this.
You're fucking ICE. We're not ICE.
I'm showing my face. I'm not.
We question you. We're not ICE. Yeah, they've been following us for over an hour. We're not ICE.
They've been over at the protest by rules.
We're just letting them know, and they.
Not ICE. Not in an ICE vehicle, right?
No.
Right.
Right. Get in your truck and get the fuck out. Why? Because you need to go. Confirmed ICE. Get the fuck out.
Confirmed ICE through who? We're American citizens. We're not ICE.
These are the people that you're abducting. Get out.
Why are you filming us?
Please go.
Because they've been following us. us for over an hour.
Why are you guys here? What are you here doing? Why are you guys here? Where do you live? Where are you from?
The protest is public property. What are you talking about?
Let me see your ID. Look at this.
That car right there?
Yeah, this truck. And they're saying we're popping up in an ICE database.
Well, then you're in it. We're not.
What's the database?
Get the fuck out of here, then.
What's the database?
No ice. Nothing on me. Prove it.
We're not ICE.
I don't have no weapons. Let me see your IDs.
Where are the conservative militias? We have jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes from now, we'll speak to John Miltimore. Don't go away. Thank you for unlocking the bonus content. You all are extremely generous, and I am tremendously grateful. Let's hit phase 2, and we'll play the bonus game, Liberty Loot Live. It's the great grift off Austin Peterson's Wake Up America show. That's no grift. It's just me, my camera, a microphone, a stream deck, a laptop, 2 keyboards, 3 mice, broadcast approach. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
The new dietary guidelines are a warning about state-run grocery stores. If progressives distrust Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s vision of healthy eating, they should rethink giving the government control over grocery aisles. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, under Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., recently released its long-awaited dietary guideline revisions for 2025 to 2030. The 10-page document has drawn both praise and fire from dietitians and public health experts. While lauding the emphasis on eating real, whole foods, some experts argue that Kennedy's prioritization of dairy and meat does not reflect nutritional science. Progressives have claimed Kennedy's focus on red meat is creating a funnel of performative masculinity and a culture of protein maxing, but those on the political left should also see a warning sign about one of their favored policy ideas: government-run grocery stores. During his election campaign, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani mainstreamed the idea of government grocery stores as a potential solution to alleged food deserts and affordability problems in the Big Apple. Commentators and economists across the political spectrum were quick to condemn Mamdani's idea, citing past debacles and the lack of evidence that corporate grocery chains are hoarding excess profits and extorting customers. Despite this, many progressives remain defiantly in favor of state-run stores, but the hand-wringing over the new HHS dietary guidelines revisions should provide a moment of pause. What Americans should or should not eat has been a matter of controversy for decades. Perhaps most notably, the federal government in the 1980s urged Americans to eschew saturated fats in favor of carbs and low-fat foods. Unsurprisingly, encouraging Americans to eat products like Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, with their 0 grams of saturated fat, every day for breakfast merely accelerated the already skyrocketing obesity rate. In other words, the government has not proven to be a very reliable nutritionist, but when it comes to government-run grocery stores, it would be the same government that determines what gets stocked in them. In some progressive circles, this is seen as a virtue, lauded as a way to ensure dignity over the food supply chain while focusing on providing healthy food for the citizenry. But therein lies the rub. As the new dietary guidelines prove, what constitutes healthy is in the eye of the beholder, and it's unlikely Mamdani and Kennedy, not to mention President Donald Trump, would agree as to which direction their preferred food pyramid should be turned. Presumably, Kennedy's treasured beef tallow would not be prioritized in Mamdani's borough stores. While partisans trust folks on their ideological team to make these calls, that doesn't mean the next mayor or HHS secretary will act in kind. These decisions inevitably become political, not only over what constitutes healthy eating, but also based on the current administration's political interests. Progressives are already alleging that the new guidelines were tainted by financial influence from the meat and dairy industry, a fight that would unavoidably become more virulent once it spilled over into the grocery aisle. If more evidence is needed, one need look no further than government-run alcohol stores, which still exist in a handful of states. In these control states, selection committees are in charge of which spirits get carried in the statewide system. Those that don't make the cut are locked out of liquor stores entirely within the state. Progressives may dislike the new Kennedy-led dietary guidelines. But then why would they empower a future Kennedy-like official to decide what makes it into their local grocery store aisle?
stream. I got these guys fucking with my fucking shit. Oh, okay. All right, what's good? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just gonna punch me in my car? Let me out, bitch. Get out. Let me out. Fight fair, motherfucker. Get out the car, nigga. Yeah, let me out, motherfucker. Bitch is hurt, right? The bitch is hurt, right? Get out the car. Let me. Get out the car. You gotta. Get out the fucking car. You just gotta sucker punch me, motherfucker. Get out the car, nigga. All right, move back. You told me to pull up. Yeah, I did. What's up? No, bitch. Hey. Get your bitch ass up. Yeah.
Don't roll up on me with two guys like that and think you're going to get away without a bullet to the face. Federal agents are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults. The streets of Minneapolis are being coordinated by encrypted signal chats run by political operatives. And in the middle of it all, a lawful gun owner is dead after a chaotic struggle over a handgun that has a defective track record. Womp womp. The leftist media is desperate to frame this like it's some kind of simple story of state aggression versus we the people. But the reality is a tangle of incitement, civilizational decay, and the total collapse of local law and order. Joining me now, locally, is the editor at Foundation for Economic Education, American Institute for Economic Research, a man who's been watching the trend lines of liberty for years, John Miltimore. It's Mondays with Miltimore, and we love having John Miltimore on the show, and he's got a lot of fans here as well. People say they love your segments. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning, AP. I wish we were talking, under better circumstances. It's really hard to watch this, and people ask me like, how do you stay in Minnesota? I said, well, we're in the suburbs. We don't see a lot of this. We're starting to see more. Saw protests out, at the local grocery store, strip malls, and people, behaving in, protesting in ways it wasn't aggressive in the way Minneapolis is, but very confrontational. And it's a shame to see it elevated like this. I think there's a lot of blame to go around. I do think Minnesota's leaders are failing. They're encouraging people to confront federal agents. They're encouraging people to get in the face. This is not going to end well. I had dinner with some people on Friday. I said more people are going to die. I said that is going to be the result. And the very next day, we had another shooting here. And I think the ICE agents in that scenario, I watched that video many times. I think they acted. I think you're going to have people that should be charged. This man was he armed? Yeah, he has a second constitutional amendment to be armed. I don't think they intentionally shot on our man, but that's what they did. The weapon was removed from him. And then he was shot several times after that weapon had been removed. At least that's what I've seen.
Dana Lash says that you have a right to carry even at a protest. He was a lawful carry permit owner in the state of Minnesota. But she went on to explain that, no, you don't have a right to interfere with federal law enforcement agents while in the middle of an operation and then tussle with the LEO while you're carrying a pistol. Do you accept that distinction? It seems to contradict your statement here. So can you square that for us?
I think so. I mean, I can say tussle with a federal agent. I didn't see him do that. He was holding a phone. He was tussled with. I watched several clips. This was not a man who initiated contact with ICE agents. Was he in a roadway? Maybe, there was, maybe that would be, once you get into the legal, the granular level here, maybe they'll make that case. But, I talked to people about this, and several people said, well, he shouldn't have been resisting federal officers. And I said, well, I didn't see him resisting. I saw him get his butt kicked. I saw him get taken down, thrown to the ground. He's sprayed. They take his gun. Politically, a man's dead, and if people, even if it was accidental, a man is dead, and you can be held for that, and we need to allow that to happen. And, you know, like, here's the problem. Like, the feds want to control the investigation. State, you know, wants to control the investigation. We haven't seen any law enforcement, any of the local government and national, you know, government work together. That is how this got started, because you have the state government and local government are refusing to work with the federal authorities, and it's created all of this tension and all of this chaos because they don't want to cooperate. I get it. You might not like ICE's mission, but they have a lawful mission. They're trying to do it, and encouraging people to get in their faces. You're going to end up with more people dead if this continues.
I put the blame for this on your local officials there. I put the blame on Governor Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, and Ilhan Omar for inciting this. And some of the people within their administrations have been shown to be actively coordinating these through signal chats, John.
I don't disagree with you, Austin. I think they deserve blame in this. I think they deserve a lot of blame in this. They've been encouraging this. They want this. And it seems like they're happy to sacrifice more foot soldiers to advance their political cause. And I think people, you know, if these are people, if you are a nice protester, I think you should think real hard about that. Do you want to be the person out there confronting officers, you know, like even the wisdom, are, you know, bringing, I believe you have a right to protest. You have a right to make your voice heard. But when you're at these rallies where you know, things are getting chippy and you're bringing firearms and, you know, you're on the front lines, that might look brave. It's also very foolish when you know, if you are antagonizing officers. But the officers deserve blame in this. We need to be clear about that. I've watched these videos. If you know, I supported when Kyle Rittenhouse, you know, 4 years ago showed up to, people were like, well, look at the gun he's carrying. But, you know, he had a right to do that. He had a right to be there, and he had a right to defend himself when a mob came after him. We need to kind of look at it from this perspective. This guy showed up at a rally and he had a phone.
I just think you're being far too fair and unbiased when you should be unfair and biased. And here's why, John. Because Kyle Rittenhouse is not a communist puke who wants to put you and me on a boxcar and send you the he's not. Kyle Rittenhouse doesn't want to kill all the libertarians. But these people, these agitators who, in coordinating, have formed a militia and, yes, using their Second Amendment right, go in and then instigate a fight with people who are engaging in what I believe to be moral and lawful actions. They are the criminals. This Pretti character is the criminal, and I'll tell you why. Because it does matter your intent. There's a difference between murder one in the first degree and murder in the second degree. And I don't think you necessarily have to always give the benefit of the doubt to someone who is obviously, clearly an enemy of Western civilization, an enemy of liberty. This person here, John, this person who is a lawful gun owner acting in his, even the militia clause of the Second Amendment, you could say, you could invoke as part of this, had every right to carry, but who got himself dead and committed suicide by cop as a result of the woke leftist mind virus. And whether or not you are a card-carrying, honest ideological Nazi, or whether you're just a member of the Wehrmacht, if you're carrying a gun into a battle with American forces, now, I don't care if they're federal agents. This is a lawful and moral act that these federal agents are there committing, enforcing our federal immigration law against sex criminals, terrorists, murderers that your local law enforcement has let out on the streets. I don't think they need to get the benefit of the doubt, John. Why do you think that they deserve it?
Because there's not a political test for civil liberties. I mean, that's the answer. You get them. I don't care what your politics are. You know, I don't like Nazis. I don't like socialists. I don't agree with any of their politics. You can go down the list. A lot of people, I don't like their politics. You get to have civil liberties. You get to show up and protest. You get to carry a firearm.
No, you don't. You don't get civil liberties if you are a criminal alien invader. You don't get civil liberties in this country. No, you don't. You don't get. American citizenship.
Who are you talking about?
Listen, American citizenship guarantees you the civil liberties accorded to the Constitution.
Alex Pretti was
if somebody was in our jurisdiction, There's a 14th Amendment right to an absolute basic modicum of civil liberties, but not if you're here committing crimes. You lose your civil liberties. If you.
But who are you talking about, Austin?
Well, Jacob Pretti, if he interfered.
Was his name
with
Jacob or Alex? I
lawful-
apologize if I got it wrong.
You might. What did I say it was?
Jacob.
Alex Pretti.
I believe it's Alex.
Pretti.
I might have got it wrong.
Thank
if
you
I
for
did.
the correction here. But American citizenship has to be accorded certain privileges. You get a basic set of privileges for human rights. Yeah, we can't just murder you in the streets for no reason. But if you come here illegally, or if you're engaging in an immoral act, which I believe what he was doing there was a crime, and then tussling with the law enforcement agents, he's not a hero. This isn't Jacob Bundy.
I'm not saying he's a hero. I'm not saying it was wise to be there. I'm not saying he was a good man. I don't know Alex Pretti, but I know that he was at a protest and he was shot in a situation that looks like he should not have been shot. And we need to be mindful of that. Just because he was protesting officers doing something that you support doesn't mean that he deserved to die. And I think we just need to keep that in mind.
Of course he deserves to die. He absolutely does. Yes, he does. He does deserve to die. It's okay to celebrate the death of communists and Nazis. It's okay when Maduro got black bagged, there was reason to celebrate because they got him and they didn't even have to kill him. But Osama bin Laden,
I don't think you believe
Osama
that.
bin Laden, Pol Pot.
Are you comparing the victim to Osama bin Laden, Austin?
Yes, I am comparing the leftists and the socialist Antifa and the whole vast left-wing conspiracy that these people are engaged in. I think it is a criminal conspiracy. They should use RICO charges to go after these people. If they're government officials, they ought to be perp walked. Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, they all ought to be brought in front of a court. Ilhan Omar ought to be considered to be denaturalized and deported, John. Absolutely. They are enemies of everything that you and I stand for. Absolutely, yes.
I think that sounds unhinged. I think that just because we disagree with their politics doesn't mean that we're going to perp walk them.
They're not normal. They're not. This is a war, John. It's not some ideological battle.
I think you need to resist that mindset. If we go down that road, that's exactly what we'll end up with.
This is why they're going to put you on the boxcar, John. They're going to put you on the boxcar. They're going to put you on the boxcar. We need to
extend civil liberties to even political opponents. No. Here's what's going to happen. The Trump administration is not going to be here forever. We're going to have a different administration. And what's going to happen then, if we start to ramp up and do these things, the same thing is going to happen to other people, to conservatives, Republicans, libertarians.
No. Libertarians are going to die. You're all going to be loaded onto the boxcars.
And
the right is going to say, well, look what you did to us. And I'm trying to stop it. Because I don't want us to be useful idiots for the mob. I don't want us to be useful idiots for the communists, the socialists. These people they're bad motherfuckers. They conspire.
You don't throw communists off planes or helicopters.
Yes, we do.
Just because no, you don't.
We do. They are, we're engaged. They are engaged in an act of war, and you want to provide aid and succor to the enemy. They want to kill you, John. They want you dead. They want you dead and raped. And preferably in that order,
This is a fascist mindset, because now you're not just saying that you disagree with me. You're saying that I'm providing aid to the enemy.
Well, aid
like that I'm a political enemy because I'm not on the right side. This is a fascist mindset.
We all remember Mussolini's free market Austrian economic viewpoint. That fascist. No, you have to defend markets with guns, John. You have to defend liberty with violence. You can't liberty has to be taken, John. It's never going to be given.
Nietzsche said, beware, slaying monsters, because you'll become a monster. And that's exactly what we're seeing here.
We have to be monsters, John. We must be monsters. Even the person who said that was a monster. But yes, we have to keep the monster under control. But the monster has to come out when the wolf is at the door, John. What I'm saying here is that where's the survival instinct amongst libertarians?
What frightens me, Austin, is I don't know if you believe this or not, but I think most people do agree with you, and that frightens me. That frightens me because I think the future is going to be very rough.
Here's what I have a problem with beef with the libertarians with this, John, is that they have an instinct for survival. Libertarians have suicidal empathy. This is a luxury belief, John. You're holding on to luxury beliefs. And you are again, you don't mean to. I know you don't mean to, but I'm saying that, like, without the Gadsden flag, we have to. Who are the enemies of liberty? John, do you know who your enemies are?
Oh, I think there's a lot of enemies of liberty, but you want to jettison the values of Western civilization that made Western civilization great.
I want to put them behind a wall with guns pointed out. I want to have defenses. I want to have redoubts. I want liberty to exist where we can defend it, but we can't bring liberty to the world, John. We can't protect everybody. We can't enforce the American Constitution all over the world, but we can protect liberty here to a certain extent. But people who come here as aliens, they're invaders. If they come here and they commit crimes, the enforcement mechanism. Let me just ask you this, John, and this is a serious question about thoughts, like not thoughtfulness, not just rhetoric or fire or bombast. Shika Dalmia, her paper, Open Borders, the case for open borders. It says specifically, it doesn't mean anybody can come here. It doesn't mean that anybody can just come here if they're a health threat or a safety threat. But then she goes on to make the case for open borders. Why don't libertarians ever explain what the security protocols would look like? People are saying I flip-flopped on immigration because I was pro-immigration when I ran for office. I said Ellis Island. Ellis Island is a security protocol. Anarchists weren't allowed to come here, John. Do you think anarchists should be allowed to come to the United States?
No, I think we should have an immigration policy that is actually discerning. I don't think we've had one for a very long time. I think there's a lot of this comes down to a broken U.S. immigration policy that has been 20 years at least in the making. You can go back. We've looked at those videos. You can see Dianne Feinstein and you can see Chuck Schumer. They were speaking on immigration rather sensibly at the time, saying, well, we can't have people coming over from Bolivia or Venezuela. They're coming here on Medicaid, Social Security. They're robbing our system. All those videos are out there. That's sensible to me. And it wasn't too long ago everyone agreed that. But then I think politics got in the way of all of that, and there's some very bad incentives baked into it.
Would you let an anarchist? Hold on, John. I want to dwell on this anarchist point for just a moment, because you're right about the left there. I completely agree. If someone says they're an anarchist and they try to come to the United States, you would say, no, they can't come here. I'll make sure I get your opinion correct.
What I'm talking about is we should have a discerning policy that, if people are part of radical groups, I think we should have an immigration policy where we're selective in who comes here, where we want people that are contributing to American prosperity, not people that are going to be, on the dole. And we shouldn't be having an open border policy where anybody can come to the border and then get asylum and get in and get released. I think that was a disaster. And I think most sensible people recognize that today.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should discriminate. I think that there's an egalitarian impulse, a desire for an egalitarian impulse amongst libertarians, that there isn't like some kind of a hierarchy. But there is a hierarchy, and there should be a hierarchy. And a hierarchy is fine. And the anarchists, they don't want a hierarchy. They want it to be flat. But I don't look at immigrants who come to the United States. I don't look at Somali fraudsters who come here illegally the same way that I do legal Cuban, Republican, Trump-supporting, right-wing in Miami. I don't look at those two people the same. I discriminate between those two groups. So is it reasonable to suggest that we should discriminate in who we bring here? And maybe it has more to do than perhaps even just merit. Maybe it should be regionality.
I've said for a long time, having a discerning immigration policy makes sense. And if you look at our immigration policy, we had certain countries that were not allowed on there. You say you want to go regional. Well, we've been doing that. The problem is, like you had people from the UK who it was impossible to come here because of our immigration policies. So I don't make me get in this game like, okay, you have some racially, superior groups or something. That's not what I'm talking about.
I said region. Now you said race. I said region.
Fair. I know what you said. And yes, I think we should have merit was the right word there. Bring in people that are going to contribute, right? And don't say no, you're from the wrong country, whether it's the UK or Somalia or Zimbabwe.
Would you let someone in if they said they were an anarcho-capitalist?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not, I say.
No,
We've got enough
and
of
again,
those
the whole
retards.
political test, I think, I thought you were being cheeky, but no, I don't want even a political test. I mean, although.
Yeah. If you come
But
here
what we need to
from
do,
Cuba,
if you're part of some, radical group, yes, we don't need that.
That's discriminatory. A radical group would be Somali fraudster, scammer. We've got plenty of those. Republican.
The problem
voting,
is, I think here you're getting at something important, though, Alex. Let me just make one point.
Donald Trump.
We've reached a point where immigration policy comes down to: is it going to help my side or hurt my side? That is that is a problem.
Yes,
and that's what we've become.
Problem. It is a problem. It's a shame that they make me do this. I come in peace. I didn't bring artillery, but I'm begging you with tears in my eyes. If you fuck with me, I will kill you all. Yes.
Well, that same mentality, I see that in the streets of Minneapolis right now. That's the mentality they're bringing, and they have a lot of people. They got a lot. They're angry, and they're like, you have federal agents in my neighborhood, and they have power, and they're looking for a showdown. I think that's very foolish. I think this is again. I don't think Alex Pretti is the last person to die here. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we can reach something where Tim Walz and Trump say this is going in a very bad direction. Can we work together and fix this? I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're in a stare down match is what it is, a political stare down match to see who flinches first. And I don't think either one wants to do that. So this is going to continue through January into February, and it's going to ramp up. I hope I'm wrong. They need to get this fixed.
I just don't know what to say. John, it's lovely having you. I appreciate it. Thanks for sparring, being a good sport. People really enjoy these segments. And a lot of people are agreeing with you in the chat. So it's not like it's Austin's crazy You used the word fascist when referring to my view a little bit earlier.
I did. I said the view was fat. I don't think you are,
John,
AP.
I'm trying to stop libertarians from getting loaded onto boxcars. I'm trying to put a little bit of fear of God in the people who don't want war. They want peace. And God bless it. John, I want you to have the peace. I want you to have the peace that passes understanding down in my heart. I want you to be able to practice free trade and free markets. But I think that there really is something to that play, the movie, A Few Good Men, when Colonel Jessup was talking about who ordered the code red? You ordered the code red. You damn right I did. I have. And he gives his speech about, how men like you sleep at night because men like him are on the wall. In any definition of the night watchman state, John, in any definition of the minarchist state where the role of the government is strictly limited to the powers of defense, cops, courts, nukes, and pretty much nothing else. But whoever that night watchman is, whoever that Batman character is, the watcher on the wall, he has to have teeth, right? He has to have guns. He had to keep us asleep at night, to keep us safe at night. Like that's why NATO has socialism. They sleep at night under the cloak of American defense. Sometimes that means daddy gets a vote in everything. Okay. John
Jessup was the bad guy in that movie. Great character, but he was the bad guy.
All right. John, anything else that you want to share with our audience before we let you go?
No, I'm good. Happy to spar with you. It was, like I said, I just fear. Here's where I come down. My closing note is this: I fear that we're sitting on a powder keg right now, and I want cooler heads to prevail. And I think the political heat is becoming just too hot, and I don't want it to get hotter.
I appreciate you, John. Where can people read your work?
I'm on The Take by John Miltimore, and all our content. Go to thedailyeconomy.org.
You grifters, you're always all on the take. Hey, John, have a good one. We'll see you next week, man. And good luck there in Minnesota. Stay safe and
thank you.
And pack heat, my brother. Just don't approach a federal agent with it. All right, America, take a breath, but don't get comfortable, okay? Because when we come back, we are moving from the battlefield to the courtroom. I'm brought in the only man crazy enough to wear the uniform of the squiggly line. We are talking to the squiggly line guy about the death of the NAP. And look, some of you purists, You're going to hate this. You want to sit in your air-conditioned living rooms debating coconut rights while the world burns. But deep down, in places that you don't talk about at libertarian conventions, you want me on that border. You need me on that wall. You want the freedom, but you don't want the filthy, gritty work of defending it. Well, the squiggly line guy is here to tell you why your luxury beliefs are about to get stomped by a combat boot. It's bright, it's dark, and it's reasonably priced. Don't go anywhere, the truth is coming, and unlike the government, it actually delivers. Wake Up America continues in 4 minutes.
Dietary guidelines are a warning about state-run grocery stores. If progressives distrust Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s vision of healthy eating, they should rethink giving the government control over grocery aisles. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, under Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., recently released its long-awaited dietary guideline revisions for 2025 to 2030. The 10-page document has drawn both praise and fire from dietitians and public health experts. While lauding the emphasis on eating real, whole foods, some experts argue that Kennedy's prioritization of dairy and meat does not reflect nutritional science. Progressives have claimed Kennedy's focus on red meat is creating a funnel of performative masculinity and a culture of protein maxing. But those on the political left should also see a warning sign about one of their favored policy ideas: government-run grocery stores. During his election campaign, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani mainstreamed the idea of government grocery stores as a potential solution to alleged food deserts and affordability problems in the Big Apple. Commentators and economists across the political spectrum were quick to condemn Mamdani's idea, citing past debacles and the lack of evidence that corporate grocery chains are hoarding excess profits and extorting customers. Despite this, many progressives remain defiantly in favor of state-run stores, but the hand-wringing over the new HHS dietary guidelines revisions should provide a moment of pause. What Americans should or should not eat has been a matter of controversy for decades. Perhaps most notably, the federal government in the 1980s urged Americans to eschew saturated fats in favor of carbs and low-fat foods. Unsurprisingly, encouraging Americans to eat products like Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, with their 0 grams of saturated fat, every day for breakfast merely accelerated the already skyrocketing obesity rate. In other words, the government has not proven to be a very reliable nutritionist, but when it comes to government-run grocery stores, it would be the same government that determines what gets stocked in them. In some progressive circles, this is seen as a virtue, lauded as a way to ensure dignity over the food supply chain while focusing on providing healthy food for the citizenry. But therein lies the rub. As the new dietary guidelines prove, what constitutes healthy is in the eye of the beholder, and it's unlikely Mamdani and Kennedy, not to mention President Donald Trump, would agree as to which direction their preferred food pyramid should be turned. Presumably, Kennedy's treasured beef tallow would not be prioritized in Mamdani's borough stores. While partisans trust folks on their ideological team to make these calls, that doesn't mean the next mayor or HHS secretary will act in kind. These decisions inevitably become political, not only over what constitutes healthy eating, but also based on the current administration's political interests. Progressives are already alleging that the new guidelines were tainted by financial influence from the meat and dairy industry, a fight that would unavoidably become more virulent once it spilled over into the grocery aisle. If more evidence is needed, one need look no further than government-run alcohol stores, which still exist in a handful of states. In these control states, selection committees are in charge of which spirits get carried in the statewide system. Those that don't make the cut are locked out of liquor stores entirely within the state. Progressives may dislike the new Kennedy-led dietary guidelines. But then why would they empower a future Kennedy-like official to decide what makes it into their local grocery store aisle?
morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. There's an article viral on X right now. It says it's neither immoral nor unethical to eliminate libertarians because their worldview is childlike. It argues that in the real world, the non-aggression principle is a fairy tale that collapses the moment someone grips a knife. Now, while the movement is crying foul, I'm asking if the author has a point about the weakness of modern libertarianism. Joining me now to debate the praxis of power and the future of the movement is an old friend and one of the most vocal voices in the liberty space, the Squiggly Line Guy. Old buddy. Squiggly, thanks for coming.
Hey, good morning, Austin, and to the good people of Rumble.
Good. Glad to have you here, Squiggly. You and I have been in the trenches a long time. You saw the article. You saw the attack on the NAP. They want to put all libertarians on boxcars, and they might actually have a good point.
Well, you know, it's kind of a funny thing where libertarians, you know, can kind of have a pacifist, type of reasoning when it comes to national policy, or I mean even direct crime. It's kind of like, you can't do anything until they kill you, and if you die as a result of them killing you, well then that's what life insurance is for.
So be honest, when you read that article and it was written by someone who despises libertarians, did you feel attacked or did you feel the sting of a valid critique?
So, I mean, I think that where I live in Washington State, you have some left libertarian ideas, bleeding heart libertarian ideas that have tried and have failed spectacularly. So, I don't think they're literally advocating, for the death of libertarian, people, but yeah, there are quite a number of, especially when it comes to, crime and those sorts of things where libertarian ideas create a wasteland rather than a utopia. And we've seen that here, particularly in the Seattle area, in the Washington area, where just non-enforcement leads to a wasteland. And, you've always been kind of a critic of the NAP, the non-aggression principle, and, particularly, Rothbard, said that, child neglect is not a violation of the non-aggression principle. And you have a lot of these libertarians, that say, oh, well, but that hardly ever happens anyway. And what adult, neglects their child? But there is a one-to-one, causational line that you can draw between some other libertarian ideas and child neglect. Specifically, what we've seen here in Washington State with the Keeping Families Together Act, which, as you may very well know, bills and their names tend to be very, very opposite. When a bill is named, the bill tends to have the opposite effect. And so the Keeping Families Together Act, is meant to keep children together with parents, who may be addicted to fentanyl and abusing drugs. And while kids are being separated from their parents through death, children are dying as a result of this act, where kids are coming into contact with fentanyl. And it may not be because the parents are being intentionally neglectful, but it's because fentanyl addiction is a crippling addiction, and these parents cannot even take care of themselves, let alone take care of a child. And children are coming into contact with these narcotics and are dying.
We talked a little bit earlier on this show about what I call luxury beliefs. Do you think that many of the ideas that libertarians espouse, especially when it comes to the concept of open borders, while cities like Minneapolis are crumbling, is the ultimate sign of class privilege in the liberty movement?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing as like the ivory tower socialism, to an extent. Yeah, I think it's just kind of, the people kind of from their from their high castles, just kind of like, shedding a tear, a crocodile tear for the poors. But yeah, I think that's kind of what it comes down to. And it seems, I think, to to the masses, to the normies, kind of the utopianism seems very, very disingenuous to a lot of the normal people out there.
Now, the article that said kill all libertarians, it links libertarians to the moral and cultural decay of the West. How do we answer the charge that we prioritize GDP over heritage?
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a good argument to be made, to prioritize GDP when everything around you is crumbling. So what, if other countries, are doing better or are buying goods, or you've got, a handful of people that are making a lot of money if society around you is crumbling, it's kind of like you have to put out the smoke. Before you can worry about the luxuries. Otherwise, the luxuries burn down with the house.
If a libertarian cannot defend his property with violence, does he actually own it, or is he just renting it from the strongest person in the room?
Right. You're always at the, especially in a decaying society or a crumbling society, you're at the mercy of people that are stronger than you. That's just the way that it goes. And, shouting, that's not very libertarian of you, isn't going to stop someone in their tracks and say, oh, wow, well, that isn't very libertarian of me. You have to be able to defend yourself with violence. And you have to, but you have to worry about the world that's going on around you too. It's not just about you, because you have to be able to predict, everything that is going on around you that may affect you. Otherwise, you've been, affected by kind of like a normalcy bias, and a normalcy bias will get you killed faster than anything.
A normalcy bias. Explain that. I mean, most people, though, they don't think in terms of self-defense. What's a normalcy bias?
So a normalcy bias is really just because you haven't experienced, violence yet, or, you haven't been attacked yet, that is just, the train of thought that you never will be. And so you can just kind of, let your guard down and not be observant of things around you, or not, take cues of danger just because it's never happened to you yet before. That's what a normalcy bias is.
We're speaking to Squiggly Line Guy. He and I go back years and years. He was a supporter of my presidential campaign, my Senate campaign, and we have shared libertarian ideals, and we have also reconsidered our priors when the outcomes didn't evolve to have the libertarian outcomes. And this is something that I've been working over in my head, and I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it, Squigs. But I think that some of the problem with modern American libertarianism is that it focuses on libertarian processes over libertarian results. And if you don't get libertarian results, you can always just blame the fact that the libertarian process wasn't put in place. But it's kind of like most people, they won't put up with feckless leadership. If you don't get results after a while, people throw you out of office, or they take you out of leadership, because people voted for Trump because, like him or not, perfection or not, he's an effective leader. He can get things accomplished for his people. And so my argument to some extent is that we have focused more on the processes than the outcomes. And I say that because Javier Milei of Argentina has actually achieved libertarian outcomes, but not everything he has done is 100% pure libertarian. But it doesn't matter. I don't care about the processes. I care about the outcomes. The outcomes matter. You do have to break eggs to make an omelet.
You do. And it's not even just like, it's not even that they're more concerned about the processes, it's that they're mostly concerned just about the theory. And like they haven't really even put, theory to process, let alone, get any sort of an outcome. One example of what I was talking about, kind of with the what we've been experiencing here in the Seattle and Washington area, where, the libertarian bleeding heart, sort of processes or or ideology, kind of crosses over with, the progressive ideology, is specifically, with the non-enforcement of drugs, what you can put, in your body is your own choice, and, you can live how any way you want. But then also when children are involved, there was one instance here that kind of made a bit of waves, where there was a homeless woman that was living with her 9-year-old boy in a tent, and the tent was full of tinfoil, fentanyl, and condoms, because this woman was turning tricks to fuel her habit, and the boy was having to go outside and wait in the bushes, while the mom was having sex for money, and then he would go back in there and sleep in that tent. And the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, the DCYF, came and evaluated it in accordance with the Keeping Families Together Act and said, this is fine. Right. So at some point, an intervention, needs to happen. And just the libertarian idea of this is fine, they're not hurting anybody else, even when a child is in danger. There has to be some sort of an intervention there. And we have a very good state representative here named Travis Couture. He lives in one of the very few districts where you're allowed to be a Republican in Washington state. And he's been hammering against this, Keeping Families Together Act now for a couple of years. This was put into place back in mid-2021. And, we were seeing the disastrous results of this pretty much right away, but Democrats were just kind of, oh no, we have to try it for a little bit longer. We have to try it for a little bit longer. We have to try it for a little bit longer. But it's just finally become, so bad that they have to realize that it's a problem. Otherwise, they are, facing the likelihood of, losing a primary challenge to a more moderate Democrat in some of these, deeper blue areas. So now this is finally, I think, it's finally going to be fixed in the legislature this coming session. And thanks to Travis Couture for continuously pushing it.
Squiggly, you've known me for years. I have generally been pro-immigration. And the way that I always framed my views for my campaign was an Ellis Island style system of security checks, health check, disease check, and safety check, background check, security check. And then if you pass, then you could get on the path to becoming an American citizen. In open borders, any defense of open borders, the one written by Reason Magazine, the gold standard, what does it mean? It says specifically that it doesn't mean anybody can just come here, right? My problem that I've been dealing with, and you tell me if you think that I've just turned into a right-wing fascist, or I'm basically a standard Republican now, because people are accusing me of flip-flopping. My problem with libertarianism is that they always will say things like, but there needs to be basic security. Open borders doesn't mean lawless anarchy and everybody can come here for no reason. Even the most broad definition of open borders still calls for security protocols. But libertarians never define what those security protocols will look like. It reminds me a little bit of like the way Ron Paul used to talk about war. He was always anti-war, but then he would say, but if we go to war, then you have a war and it's constitutional, and you have Congress declare war, and then you win the war and you come home. But he never spent much time talking about the winning of the war. He never talked about...
How do you win a war?
Yeah. How do you win a war? What is it's kind of like you have it almost feels, not necessarily with Ron, because he was like laser focused on a mission, but it almost feels with many libertarians as if they're ignoring the security part of you're for open borders? Okay, but then you said security. What's the security going to look like? Would it look like ICE agent? Would it look like federal agents showing up in the street? Potentially putting a couple of leftists on ICE while trying to get the pedophile, Are you sort of like I know you sense my frustration, but do you agree with me that there seems to be a missing piece, that there's no responsibility attached to the liberty?
Yeah, I think that they just kind of have a, whatever happens, sort of approach to it, and are just kind of hoping that it's going to work out because they believe that, their ideas are correct. Therefore, it should just work out. So it's kind of like they just believe that the conclusion is going to be in their favor. So it's just kind of like the details aren't important.
Yeah, the details are important, though. We in order to survive, yes. Squigs, we have to have a theory of war. It can't just be the Catholic doctrine of just war theory handed down from St. Augustine. You've got to deal with drones. You've got to deal with mass surveillance. You've got to deal with people who can fly planes into buildings, Unabombers, radioactive bombs. I mean, there's so many threats. Nuclear submarines. Squiggly. How do you counteract nuclear submarines without an Air Force and a Navy?
Yeah. And even, minus, like a government, you still have plenty of NGOs or non-government organizations that are trying to destroy you from within. And something has to be done about those too.
Yes. Squiggly Line Guy joins us on the Wake Up America show. Squigs and I go way back. You can follow him over on X at Guy Squigs for more of his based and red-pilled takes. Javier Milei isn't like these American libertarians, Squigs. Javier Milei is an anarcho-capitalist with F-16s. He buys weapons from the United States. He is a Misesian economist. He is an Austrian economist who is the president of the 8th largest country in the world by landmass, Squigs. And he's buying weapons that many libertarians say would violate the NAP in any definition. It's too loud, that jet, that F-16. Does anarcho-capitalism need to be defended with F-16s?
Your country does.
I think the Libertarian Party and the Liberty Movement in the United States has become a clown car of serious thinkers. They remind me very much of that still from the show Arrested Development, where it's a bunch of the magicians and they're like, we demand to be taken seriously. It's sad.
Yeah. I think it was, probably back in 2016, where the 2016 Trump and the 2016 Hillary, you had, a lot of Americans that really at that moment in time weren't satisfied with either. And, the spotlight was on the libertarians, in 2016. And I think with Gary Johnson just lost us that seat at the table.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that the last chance was in 2016. I don't think that for another 100 years, there will ever be another chance like the Libertarian Party had in 2016. Typically, America runs on about 30-year cycles for third parties, but I don't see from 2016 to even whatever the year out would be from 2016. What's 2016 plus 2040? 8 or whatever, somebody do the math.
I mean, it's
not going to happen.
Yeah, nobody's paying attention to libertarians anymore. In fact, there's quite a bit of animosity against libertarians and their current ideals in this climate. And when you have people that only care about just the philosophy of it, I mean, really what you really have is just a small group of people saying I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, and the rest of America is like, okay, well, go be right in the other room over there. We don't want to talk to you.
Explain that. Explain your theory of if you were on an island with a libertarian, a NAP-based libertarian, what would you do?
Yeah, so libertarians like to have these very, very theoretical just these very, very theoretical hypotheses with very narrow parameters to try and kind of box you into this gotcha and say that applies to the rest of real life. And they come up with these weird hypotheticals that just don't exist in real life. Like, so let's say that you and I were stranded together on a desert island. Well, first off, let's not say that because that's never going to happen. That's why everybody hates you. But going further into that, when they say, let's say that we're on a desert island and I have 100 cases of water and you just have what's left in your canteen, and I don't want to share any of my water with you. And when you run out of your canteen water, it wouldn't be moral for you to take any of my water now, would it? But it's just kind of like libertarians don't understand that two things can be true, right? First, no, it's not moral for me to take your water. But number two, I'm going to do it anyway. right? I'm going to do it anyway. I am going to hit you over the head with a coconut. I'm going to knock you out. I'm going to tie you to a log. I'm going to push you out to sea. And when you come to, 3 miles out to sea, you can sit there, tied to a log, drifting out into the ocean, yelling, "That's not very libertarian of you." But I can't hear you from all the way out there while I'm sitting down on the beach enjoying your water, because life is better without you.
Yeah, but you violated the nap. You're not a real libertarian.
You're not a real libertarian, he yells from 3 miles out to sea.
Squiggly, this is why we're friends, because we can joke and laugh about shit like this. And I really love you, bud. And I'm just so grateful that you're out there, that we've got good people in the world, because, man, I would be very black-pilled if there weren't for people like Squigs. So, Guy, hey, man, this is your chance. If you got a charity you like to support, or if anything that you want to plug, you selling T-shirts, this is your chance, man. So have at it.
Yeah, all I've really got right now is on my X page, Twitter page, my handle Guy Squigs. My pinned tweet is a friend of mine, Rebecca, who just lost her daughter to childhood sarcoma, to cancer. As I know, raising a child is expensive. I'm sure you're finding that out, but it's also expensive to lose a child. It's very expensive all at once when your child has been battling cancer for 5 years and has passed away. So for any of you that, if it may be on your heart to give to someone, that just lost her beautiful baby girl to cancer, that's my pinned tweet. She's got a GoFundMe there. Any help that you could give Rebecca would be just so much appreciated.
At Guy Squigs, I'm pulling up your X handle right now. I'm going to go make a small contribution today because you asked, and because I trust you and I know that you would promote a good cause. So it's time to pay it forward a little bit. I'll go do that as soon as the show is over, and everybody go check out at Guy Squigs on X. I am liking and I am reposting your tweet right now. Have a good one, Squigs. Thank you very much for your time and your energy, your patience with us retarded libertarians. We're just a little bit retarded, but I'm waking them up. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
All right, guys. You are the Vanguard. It's time to listen up. We've reached the end of the line, but for you, the real journey is just beginning. We've spent the last 2 hours dissecting the decay, exposing the signal mob, and tearing down the luxury beliefs of the people who would rather be naive than alive. First, I want to give a massive shout out to every single one of you who unlocked the bonus content today. Thank you, guys. We raised $155 on the show. We are so grateful for that. You're the reason we do this. You're the reason we can point at the boxcar and say, "Not today, Commissar." You are the intelligent, hard-charging patriots who recognize that freedom isn't a participation trophy. It's a prize won by the vigilant, and it must be defended by every generation. We've revealed the truth about Minneapolis. We exposed how Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, and Ilhan Omar turned a great American city into a hunting ground for federal agents. We looked at the SIG P320 trap and realized that in a war zone, the only thing more dangerous than a mob is a defective shield. And to my friends, John Miltimore and Squiggly Line Guy, thanks for stepping into the arena. John, he brought some fisticuffs. Squiggly brought the destruction of the purity tests, and I brought the boot, because at the end of the day, the nap is a beautiful poem. But poems don't stop Soviet boxcars. Now, if you want to see what actual revolution looks like, the kind that builds nations instead of burning cities, you need to be in Boston with me on May 1st and 2nd. We're going to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of American liberty. We're walking the Freedom Trail. We're boarding the Tea Party ships, and we're raising a glass at the Bell in Hand Tavern. That's right. This isn't just a tour. This is a pilgrimage for the patriotic soul. Go to forlibertyshop.com right now. Guys, get your head in the game. Get some Founding Flavors coffee while you're at it. You're going to need the caffeine to keep up with me. All right, guys, I just want to leave you with a thought from the man himself, George Washington. He didn't sit around debating the morality of the redcoats while they marched on his porch. He understood the brutal praxis of power. He said, "To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace." America, we want peace. We want to be left alone. We want to grow our businesses, raise our families, and drink our coffee in the sunlight of liberty. But the mob is at the gate. The signal chats are pinging. The boxcar is rattling, and it's headed your way. If you want peace, you better start preparing for the war they're already waging against you. You have a nationalist spine, have a civilizational soul, believe in liberty, and for the love of all that is holy, stay off the train. Don't get on the train. Get into the Discord at forlibertynetwork.com. Keep the conversation going. I'm Austin Petersen, and this has been the Wake Up America show. Stay free, stay armed. Don't launch yourself into a crowd of federal agents with it, but we'll see you at 7 a.m. tomorrow, guys. Goodbye.
Dietary guidelines are a warning about state-run grocery stores. If progressives distrust Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s vision of healthy eating, they should rethink giving the government control over grocery aisles. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, under Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., recently released its long-awaited dietary guideline revisions for 2025 to 2030. The 10-page document has drawn both praise and fire from dietitians and public health experts. While lauding the emphasis on eating real, whole foods, some experts argue that Kennedy's prioritization of dairy and meat does not reflect nutritional science. Progressives have claimed Kennedy's focus on red meat is creating a funnel of performative masculinity and a culture of protein maxing. But those on the political left should also see a warning sign about one of their favored policy ideas: government-run grocery stores. During his election campaign, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani mainstreamed the idea of government grocery stores as a potential solution to alleged food deserts and affordability problems in the Big Apple. Commentators and economists across the political spectrum were quick to condemn Mamdani's idea, citing past debacles and the lack of evidence that corporate grocery chains are hoarding excess profits and extorting customers. Despite this, many progressives remain defiantly in favor of state-run stores, but the hand-wringing over the new HHS dietary guidelines revisions should provide a moment of pause. What Americans should or should not eat has been a matter of controversy for decades. Perhaps most notably, the federal government in the 1980s urged Americans to eschew saturated fats in favor of carbs and low-fat foods. Unsurprisingly, encouraging Americans to eat products like Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, with their 0 grams of saturated fat, every day for breakfast merely accelerated the already skyrocketing obesity rate. In other words, the government has not proven to be a very reliable nutritionist, but when it comes to government-run grocery stores, it would be the same government that determines what gets stocked in them. In some progressive circles, this is seen as a virtue, lauded as a way to ensure dignity over the food supply chain while focusing on providing healthy food for the citizenry. But therein lies the rub. As the new dietary guidelines prove, what constitutes healthy is in the eye of the beholder, and it's unlikely Mamdani and Kennedy, not to mention President Donald Trump, would agree as to which direction their preferred food pyramid should be turned. Presumably, Kennedy's treasured beef tallow would not be prioritized in Mamdani's borough stores. While partisans trust folks on their ideological team to make these calls, that doesn't mean the next mayor or HHS secretary will act in kind. These decisions inevitably become political, not only over what constitutes healthy eating, but also based on the current administration's political interests. Progressives are already alleging that the new guidelines were tainted by financial influence from the meat and dairy industry, a fight that would unavoidably become more virulent once it spilled over into the grocery aisle. If more evidence is needed, one need look no further than government-run alcohol stores, which still exist in a handful of states. In these control states, selection committees are in charge of which spirits get carried in the statewide system. Those that don't make the cut are locked out of liquor stores entirely within the state. Progressives may dislike the new Kennedy-led dietary guidelines. But then why would they empower a future Kennedy-like official to decide what makes it into their local grocery store